Okay, imagine this. You step into an organization, right? And all those usual bottlenecks, the delays, bureaucracy, they're just gone. We're talking about true, comprehensive, enterprise-wide AI, a system so plugged in that marketing campaigns basically launch themselves based on live inventory data.
Yeah.
And, financial forecast. HR handles onboarding, training, all that stuff dynamically. No hands-on deck needed. Complex legal drafts generated overnight. We're really moving past those isolated little pilot projects. We're heading into the realm of the truly self-orchestrating organization.
It really is the ultimate corporate upgrade, isn't it? But it's so much more than just installing some fancier software. It's a fundamental shift. Architecture, strategy, the whole shebang.
Exactly.
And look, this deep dive, we've designed it as your shortcut, really, to understanding this massive transformation. We're pulling out specific, sometimes, frankly, astonishing strategic needs, departmental applications, the foundational infrastructure you have to have in place to actually deploy AI agents at a scale that genuinely impacts the bottom line, not just tinkering.
Right. And that vision you painted, the fully automated, seamless 24/7 company managing its own workflows, that's the big promise, isn't it? That's what enterprise-scale AI is selling. But getting there means leaders have got to shift how they think. It's not about just finding the next cool AI gadget anymore. It's about rebuilding the company's entire nervous system, you could say.
That's precisely it, yeah. The source material we looked at, there's a really clear line. There's a company that uses AI, maybe in pockets, and then there's an organization that truly runs on AI. And the difference, it boils down to coordination, synergy. If your AI systems aren't talking to each other, properly integrated, they're basically just, sophisticated calculators locked away in separate rooms, siloed.
Okay, so let's map this out. What really lifts AI deployment from being just like a useful tool in one department to being enterprise-scale AI? Because let's be honest, almost every big company out there claims they're doing AI these days. What's the real difference?
Well, the core definition really hinges on that idea of unified purpose and integration. It's not optional. Enterprise AI means the mandatory integration of multiple, often specialized AI systems right across all departments. Often they're sharing common foundational models, maybe a centralized data architecture. We'll get into that. But the explicit goal, it's threefold. You're aiming for advanced autonomous coordination between functions. You want sophisticated end-to-end automation of processes. And you need ubiquitous real-time analytics across the entire business. It's really that synergistic effect, the whole 1 + 1 = 5 idea that defines it. Moving organizations from these fragmented local wins to coordinated company-wide acceleration.
Okay, that nails the distinction. Synergy, not silos. But how does that synergy actually work, mechanically speaking? I mean, if I've got a marketing team and a finance team, and historically they, let's say, don't communicate well, how does just adding an AI agent to each suddenly make them collaborate?
That's exactly where this concept of the self-orchestrating organization comes into play. And the sources, thankfully, give us a brilliant, really tangible scenario to explain it. Think about the problem faced by the COO, Hassan. His story is basically a stand-in for, almost every large multinational grappling with this.
Right. So tell us about Hassan's coordination nightmare. What was he up against?
Okay, so Hassan was the COO of this huge multinational. His specific challenge, and it sounds impossible, involved 5 major departments: sales, manufacturing, logistics, finance, and legal. And these weren't just down the hall from each other. They were spread across 3 different continents. Now, in the old model, the non-orchestrated way, sales signs a big contract over here. Manufacturing gets the memo maybe 3 days later over there. Logistics then scrambles to find capacity a week after that. In finance, they wouldn't update the cash flow forecast until the next weekly meeting. Hopeless. The whole thing relied on manual handoffs, endless email chains, bureaucratic approvals, which, given time zones and complexity, it just guaranteed miscommunication, delays, wasted resources.
That sounds painfully familiar. That's the universal headache for big organizations, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get that instant, complex coordination is usually where the bureaucracy just digs in and wins.
Absolutely. It's the default state. But the sources detail how once Hassan's company made the shift, integrating AI agents at scale, the company actually transformed. It became self-orchestrating. What that means is the system itself was designed to handle those complex cross-department handoffs autonomously. It ensured that an action taken on one continent instantly triggered the necessary response on another, according to rules set out in advance based on strategy. The whole company just got faster and way more efficient. Why? Because that human dependency, the waiting for someone to pass along the message for routine and complex transactions, it just vanished.
Okay, we need to paint a clearer picture for the listener. What does that radical, self-orchestrated shift actually look like on the ground? Let's get into the specifics of those changes.
Yeah, let's trace the functional shifts the source material lays out. Take HR onboarding, for example. Traditionally, that's dozens of forms, manual checks across IT, security, managers. Now, fully automated. The moment a job offer gets accepted, the HR agent autonomously spins up the needed accounts, assigns compliance training modules. It even schedules the new hire's first week of meetings based on the manager's live calendar. Boom.
Wow. That alone must free up countless hours for the HR team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about functions that have to predict things?
We do.
Like marketing.
Right, marketing. Campaigns shifted from being, reactive or based on slow internal data churn to using sophisticated predictive content models. The agents weren't just reacting to clicks anymore. They were actually anticipating what customers might need next. There's using real-time behavioral data, external economic indicators, competitor moves, constantly adjusting strategy on the fly.
And because everything's now connected, finance reports couldn't stay stuck in that old monthly cycle, could they?
That's a critical observation, yeah. Finance reports, instead of being these static monthly or even weekly snapshots, they updated in real time, sometimes minute by minute, reflecting operational costs, sales performance, inventory levels, instantaneously. That level of data freshness, it allows for dynamic capital allocation faster, much more confident decisions, and at the same time, the routine specialized stuff got delegated too. Legal drafts for standard contracts, auto-generated, pre-vetted against compliance rules, customer queries, handled 24/7 by sophisticated AI chat systems. And these weren't basic bots. They could access full customer histories, even trigger fulfillment processes directly in logistics, something no simple chatbot could ever manage.
So the coordination happens at the machine level, guided by rules set by human leaders. That shift moves companies from just reacting to the market and internal friction to proactively managing everything as a single, coherent entity. The self-orchestrating organization that is fundamentally about erasing those friction points between the silos. Okay, now we've set the stage, this synergistic nervous system idea. Let's really dive deep into the specific functions where these AI agents are driving the transformation today. For you listening, this is the practical map. Where's the immediate value? Where's the strategic application? We need to get beyond generalities and look at the granular mechanics.
Absolutely. Let's move from the grand vision to the operational reality. The source material gives us a really clear departmental breakdown. It shows how these kind of localized agent deployments ultimately feed that central orchestration engine we talked about.
Let's kick off with human resources, often seen as the most process-heavy department, right? Our sources flag 3 core areas, and it goes way beyond just simple chatbots.
Yes, definitely. First up, sophisticated recruitment processes. And this isn't just about filtering CVs anymore. Oh no. AI agents are used for dynamic talent pooling, predictive modeling. The agent analyzes performance data from across the company, figures out the attributes of your best long-term employees, and then it scores incoming candidates against those success profiles. It only schedules the highest potential applicants for actual human review. Think about the reduction in bias, the time saved on low-probability candidates.
Okay, and that second area, automated onboarding, we need to unpack that fully. What does an automated onboarding agent actually do day to day?
Right. So the onboarding agent handles dynamic provisioning and personalized training paths. Candidate accepts the offer. Bam. The agent pulls department-specific needs from the manager's profile, like, okay, this role needs Python skills, access to the European finance server. It immediately pings IT for tailored access permissions, assigns a customized package of learning modules, and crucially, it manages the entire document flow. All compliance forms completed digitally, verified perhaps by the legal agent. It eliminates that paper trail and that classic 2-week wait just to get system access.
And the third area you mentioned, ongoing day-to-day employee support.
Yeah, and again, these aren't just glorified FAQ bots. These specialized HR agents function as Tier 1 and even Tier 2 support across the entire employee lifecycle. They can process specific requests, updating tax forms, handling complex benefits enrollment questions, processing sick leave, proactively checking on mandatory training, and they only route the really unique or sensitive stuff like complex grievances to human specialists. They just absorb the sheer volume of those high-frequency operational queries.
Okay, moving over to marketing. This is often where the system's intelligence is most visible on the outside, isn't it? It sounds like a shift from just running campaigns to really dynamically managing the whole customer journey.
Definitely. And that transformation is driven by 3 key things according to the sources. First, leveraging predictive analytics. Agents analyze market volatility, competitor moves, vast streams of real-time social data, transaction data, to predict shifts in product demand before they even happen, really. This lets the company shift resources almost instantly, proactively.
And the mechanism for deep personalization, we should talk about the scale of that.
It's personalization, yeah, but at an industrial scale. We're way past just inserting someone's first name in an email blast. The agent can generate thousands of localized content variations, testing headlines, images, offers, specific to incredibly granular audience segments, like, say, women aged 35-45, coastal Texas, recently searched for EVs. The agent does this autonomously, constantly tweaking creative based on immediate engagement data. It ensures the whole interaction feels tailored to that individual's needs and where they are in the buying process.
And that connects directly to the third point, running automated ad campaigns. The agent isn't just managing it, it's constantly optimizing the spend, the allocation.
Precisely. The agent's monitoring, say, 15 different performance indicators across Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, adjusting budgets between platforms based on real-time ROI, testing creative elements, optimizing bid prices for conversions, all without someone constantly tweaking knobs. This completely frees up the human team for high-level strategy, creative oversight. It just eliminates those endless hours spent on tedious budget fiddling.
Next up, the financial bedrock. Finance. Speed, accuracy, compliance. That's the name of the game here.
Yeah, in finance, the agent brings critical capabilities for continuous security and efficiency. The AI-driven auditing systems are probably the most transformative piece. These agents set up a continuous auditing loop. They pore over billions of transactions, regulatory rules, in milliseconds. They're not waiting for quarter end. They're flagging anomalies, reconciling internal accounts, cross-referencing supplier invoices against historical norms. Instantly.
That speed allows for proactive action, right? Not just reactive damage control after the fact.
Correct. They also handle advanced expense forecasting. Unlike old statistical models, these AI models build incredibly accurate, probabilistic forecasts. They use real-time operational data pulled from the operations and sales agents, mix it with macroeconomic indicators. They can predict, often with surprising accuracy, potential cost overruns or capital surpluses months ahead.
And sophisticated fraud detection. What does an agent-powered system catch that maybe a human analyst might miss?
Well, the agent excels at spotting really subtle, large-scale patterns, often spread over time or geography. For instance, an agent could analyze transaction data across all global subsidiaries and identify a series of tiny, unusual payments being funneled through some common intermediary structure. It's a pattern that might be too subtle or just too geographically dispersed for a human analyst to connect the dots in time. That level of vigilance, that cross-transactional view, it's basically non-negotiable now in global finance.
Okay, moving quickly now to legal. Accuracy, compliance are absolutely paramount here.
Two critical agent functions stand out. First, automated contract drafting. Agents use trained legal templates to generate standardized documents. Think NDAs, vendor contracts, basic partnership agreements. They work off specific inputs from the requesting department, like sales or ops. This massively cuts down lawyer time spent on routine work, freeing them up for the high-stakes, novel legal challenges. The agent ensures only pre-approved clauses are used, manages version control.
And second, that crucial compliance monitoring. In a global company, the rules change constantly.
Exactly. The agent acts like a 247 regulatory watchdog. It ingests new updates, GDPR changes, new regional tax laws, industry-specific environmental rules, and it immediately cross-references them against all existing company documents, operational procedures, flagging any areas of non-compliance for immediate human legal review, essential for managing multinational risk.
And finally, operations, the engine room, where physical efficiency is king.
Yeah, operations agents drive efficiency through anticipation. They focus heavily on predictive maintenance for equipment. By constantly analyzing sensor data, temperature, vibration, pressure from machines, the agent shifts the organization from reactive repairs to scheduled preventative care. Instead of waiting for a machine to break down, causing downtime, the agent predicts failure probability, alerts the maintenance crew, and can even automatically order the needed parts via the procurement agent.
And they optimize complex workflows. This sounds like the ultimate coordination challenge.
Yeah, it really is. Operations agents manage scheduling, logistics, resource allocation. Imagine a supply chain bottleneck due to, say, a natural disaster in one region. The operations agent can autonomously reroute shipments, update delivery estimates, inform the sales agent about the impact on customers, and alert the finance agent to the cost implications all in real time. This is where that self-orchestration idea really shows its worth.
That's an incredible range of specific applications. But let's tie it all back to the main theme. You've been arguing these aren't just isolated tools. How do these 5 seemingly independent departmental nodes effectively create that single, unified, intelligent organization?
Well, the central argument in the sources is that the value is multiplicative, not just additive. Each department becomes a critical node in an intelligent organization. They're not silos anymore, they're interconnected processors. Think about the flow we just described. Marketing agent predicts higher sales, tells finance agent for cash flow adjustment. Finance tells operations agent about needed inventory. Operations tells HR agent about needing to hire faster for specific roles. It's this constant, structured, machine-to-machine data exchange. That's the essence of enterprise synergy. That's the game changer.
Okay, we've spent a good chunk of time on the exciting applications, the what it does. But scaling AI, especially like this, isn't built on excitement alone, is it? It's built on really robust infrastructure. If you're going to have all these interconnected agents relying on each other, exchanging data in real time, they need a completely new kind of corporate backbone. What are those non-negotiable technical foundations?
This is exactly where we hit the wall for many companies. Even ones with big IT budgets often fail here. They try to bolt these powerful new AI engines onto an old, creaking chassis. It just doesn't work. The self-orchestrating organization needs 3 necessary technical components for its backbone. It's a move away from traditional legacy IT structures.
Okay, component number 1. Centralized data architecture. We've called it the single source of truth, but for listeners who might be a bit more technical, why do traditional data warehouses often fall short here?
Right. Traditional setups often rely on separate, siloed databases, don't they? ERP's got finance data, CRM's got customer data, HRM's got employee data. When an agent needs to make a decision that cuts across functions, it has to wait for these complex, often slow ETL processes, extract, transform, load. That introduces latency. And worse, it often means agents are working with outdated information. A true centralized data architecture, maybe using a modern data mesh or data fabric approach, solves 2 critical problems.
Oh, sure.
First, data lineage and latency. The architecture absolutely must provide low latency access to data, but with guaranteed lineage. That means the agents know precisely where the data came from, when it was last updated, and crucially, how reliable it is. This stops agents making conflicting decisions because they're looking at different versions of the truth. Second, it allows for a unified data ontology, basically standardizing the definitions of key terms and metrics across the whole company. So when the finance agent talks about revenue, it means the exact same thing as when the sales agent uses the word revenue. That shared language is fundamental for machine collaboration.
Got it. So if the centralized data architecture is the unified brain, then component number 2, this API-based integration between departments, that must be the sophisticated communication network connecting everything.
Exactly. APIs, application programming interfaces, they're essentially the contracts that define how different software pieces talk to each other. In a self-orchestrating entity, these APIs are vital. They enable that seamless, programmatic interaction between the specialized AI agents and also with all of the existing legacy systems, your SAPs, your Oracles, whatever. Without robust, standardized, secure APIs, the agents simply can't exchange information effectively. They can't trigger workflows in other departments or get the data updates they need. They just default back to operating in their little departmental pools, and the whole self-orchestration concept just falls apart.
But standardizing APIs across a big company, especially one with decades of different legacy systems, that sounds like a massive undertaking. What makes this integration different from just, wiring up 2 bits of software?
It demands standardized data contracts and really strict security layers. Every single API has to follow a protocol. It defines not just what data is shared, but how the receiving agent is allowed to use it, and critically, how the security layer ensures only authorized agents, human or AI, can access sensitive endpoints. It's a huge security step, obviously, but it's also about guaranteeing reliability for the whole agent ecosystem. They need to trust the data they get.
Okay. And finally, component 3, A unified governance framework. This feels like the bit that often gets overlooked, maybe because it's less tangible, yet it seems absolutely non-negotiable if you're aiming for autonomy at this scale.
It is the mission-critical requirement,
Yeah.
absolutely. A unified governance framework goes way beyond just writing some policy documents. It implements operational controls, often through rigorous MLOps, that's machine learning operations frameworks. This framework standardizes control across the entire enterprise. It dictates the rules of engagement for the AI agents, ensures they interact with data responsibly, ethically, and crucially, that their underlying models don't drift.
Model drift. Can you explain that a bit?
Sure. So when you deploy an AI model, it's been trained on historical data, right? But over time, the real world changes. The operational data the model sees starts to shift. New customer behaviors emerge, market conditions change. If the model isn't constantly monitored and retrained, its accuracy degrades. That's model drift. A unified governance framework mandates mechanisms for continuous monitoring, automatic detection of drift, and automated retraining pipelines. This guarantees the agents stay robust, accurate, and compliant long after they've been deployed at scale. It's about maintaining performance and trust. So if the technology provides the engine, the analysis we reviewed clearly shows that strategic guidance is the absolute required steering wheel. You need both. Technological integration must be driven by strategic leadership, not just handed off to IT.
Right. So if the tech side is sorted, what are the core leadership principles that have to accompany this kind of massive AI transformation?
Yeah.
Because this level of change, it feels like it can't just be managed by a single project manager somewhere.
No, the sources are crystal clear on this. AI transformation isn't something you delegate down the chain. It has to be a mandate from the top. If the executive leadership, the CEO, COO, CFO, the C-suite isn't visibly driving this, allocating resources across those departmental boundaries, setting the cultural tone, the whole initiative will inevitably get bogged down. Competing departmental priorities, fear of job disruption, it'll just stall.
And what should that top leadership be focusing their mandates on specifically?
They absolutely must focus on defining the purpose of the AI deployment and connecting it directly to concrete strategic goals. It's just not enough to say, oh, we want to improve efficiency. Leaders need to articulate. Are we aiming to slash time to market for new products by 50%? Are you trying to cut regulatory fines in the Asia-Pacific region by 90%? Are we trying to use hyper-personalization to capture the luxury goods market? The AI deployment has to be anchored to those specific, measurable strategic outcomes. That way, every agent, metaphorically speaking, knows its contribution to the bigger enterprise mission.
That connects perfectly back to the governance point, doesn't it? The overarching purpose helps define the rules of the system.
It does. And finally, leadership has to proactively manage the crucial human element. There needs to be mandatory company-wide training, not just on the AI, but on how human teams can collaborate fluently with these AI systems. This isn't just nice to have, it's essential for smooth integration. It helps mitigate that internal resistance. Because look, if your human teams see the agents as rivals or as these incomprehensible black boxes they can't trust, they'll distrust the results, they'll find workarounds, they'll bypass the system, and then the whole beautiful architecture fails, no matter how technically brilliant it is.
Okay, the theory is compelling, the strategic mandates sound right, but the big question, the defining one really, is does this massive, fully integrated, self-orchestrating system actually deliver that kind of exponential value in the real world? We do have a concrete example from the sources, right? A large Pakistani conglomerate that actually put this exact model into practice.
Yes, and this case study is so valuable because it's the proof point. It validates that synergy principle we keep talking about. This conglomerate, they didn't just dip their toes in with a single chatbot project somewhere. They went big. They implemented AI enterprise-wide, hitting their major functions, marketing, finance, HR, operations, pretty much all at once.
And what was the secret sauce? What specific structural element let them achieve these results when so many other big companies seem to get stuck in pilot purgatory?
Well, their success really hinges entirely on that core principle we've hammered home. Using interconnected AI agents, all governed by a unified data architecture. They deliberately engineered their system to avoid the trap of isolated tools. Their agents talk to each other, they shared data using those standardized APIs we discussed earlier, and they coordinated complex cross-functional workflows automatically. It was this internal communication and coordination that multiplied the value of each individual agent exponentially.
Okay, and that coordination translated into some specific, pretty powerful results, didn't it? These numbers should really stick with you, the listener, because they show the potential ROI if you commit to the full enterprise strategy.
Let's look at the numbers provided, starting with marketing performance. Because of that enterprise-wide integration, meaning the marketing agent got instant updates from operations on inventory, from finance on cash flow, their automation became hyper-accurate, hyper-timely. The result: customer engagement increased threefold, 3 times the interaction. Why? Because the campaigns were smart enough to know what to sell, when to sell it, and crucially, how much was actually in stock.
Wow, 3 times. That's a massive uplift. Now let's talk finance. The impact on time reduction there was pretty astounding too.
Yeah. In finance, their AI-driven auditing systems delivered one of the most compelling metrics: the time needed for their comprehensive internal audit process. Slashed drastically. This high-stakes function, which historically took them 30 days, was shrunk down to only 3 days. That's a 90% reduction in audit time. Think about the strategic impact of that. Quicker financial closings, faster risk identification, reallocating capital immediately instead of waiting a month for the all clear.
And internally in HR, the numbers showed a direct hit to operational overhead too.
That's right. The source highlighted their integrated AI-powered HR onboarding system cut training costs by 40%. 40. And that's a direct result of autonomous agents taking over, creating and deploying personalized training, managing documents, handling basic employee questions. It lets the expensive human training staff focus purely on complex leadership development and strategic human capital stuff.
These aren't just marginal gains. These are radical operational shifts. But okay, scaling up any system introduces complexity, introduces risks. If we embrace this level of autonomy and interconnectivity, what are the critical challenges that leaders absolutely must tackle head on, according to the sources?
Deploying at this kind of scale definitely exposes the organization to 3 major hurdles. They have to be managed proactively. The first one is the stubborn persistence of data silos, even if you have a top-down mandate for centralized architecture. The sheer inertia of historical data trapped in separate systems, HR data here, sales data there, ancient mainframes somewhere else, it's tough and expensive to fix. If the agents can't access the full, clean, unified data set they need, their decisions will be suboptimal, potentially even dangerous. Breaking down those silos takes a massive, sustained commitment, financial and cultural, to data cleansing and migration.
So the initial cost isn't just buying the AI software. It's paying down potentially decades of technical debt tied up in fragmented data.
Precisely, that's often the hidden cost. The second big challenge is implementing effective ethical AI governance. This is huge. When you have agents autonomously making critical, high-stakes decisions, adjusting marketing spend by millions, flagging transactions as potentially fraudulent, you must have clear, transparent, auditable standards. How does the AI behave? Why did it reach that conclusion? You need strong policies on bias detection, fairness metrics, and crucially, explainability XAI, so a human auditor or regulator can actually understand the agent's complex decision-making path.
And finally, the security issue must get exponentially more complicated the more interconnected everything becomes, right?
Absolutely. That's security and access control. Since the whole enterprise now relies on this centralized data architecture and agents are constantly chatting via APIs, a breach in one corner could potentially compromise the entire system. Organizations have to adopt really stringent zero-trust security principles for that inter-agent communication. You need to ensure, for instance, that an HR agent has absolutely no unauthorized access to sensitive financial projections, even if they technically live on the same data platform. Managing that fine-grained access control across thousands of potential interactions, it's a major ongoing technical hurdle. Hashtag outro, host speaker, and expert soaker.
Okay, that really brings us towards wrapping up this deep dive into enterprise AI agents. It seems incredibly clear that this kind of transformation demands way more than just throwing money at technology.
Yeah, a few key takeaways to hold on to. First, remember, enterprise AI is defined by that mandatory synergy, not just isolated departmental tools. The real transformative value comes from the structured interconnection of multiple systems, multiple agents.
Right. And second, that synergy is what turns individual departments into these critical intelligent nodes within a larger self-orchestrating organization.
Yeah.
The system itself is designed to handle the complexity of cross-functional work automatically, leading to those incredible efficiency gains we saw in that conglomerate example.
And third, the success of deploying this at scale is absolutely anchored in strategic guidance. AI scales best when it's proactively guided by unified governance, rigorous MLOps practices, and maybe most importantly, strong, decisive leadership from the very top, setting the strategic purpose for these agents.
We've spent this whole deep dive really focusing on the technical side, the strategic shift that moved from isolated tools to this unified self-orchestrating framework. But if this highly governed, highly automated framework is the future of how businesses operate, where does that leave the human workforce?
Well, that raises perhaps the most significant question that comes immediately after successful deployment. We might solve the engineering challenge, right? But then we face the anthropological challenge, the ultimate success, the long-term viability of this self-orchestrating organization. It depends entirely on the humans who have to collaborate with it day in, day out.
The source material specifically mentioned that necessary, crucial cultural shift that has to follow deployment, moving people from fear to fluency when working alongside these scaled autonomous systems.
Exactly. If the systems are technically perfect, but the people are resistant, distrustful, the transformation ultimately fails. Leaders have to actively ensure employees move past that initial fear of being replaced. They need to develop genuine fluency, trusting the agent's outputs within ethical bounds, understanding their functions, knowing exactly when human judgment is needed, when to intervene, how to collaborate effectively.
So that challenge, how do we effectively bridge that gap between human expertise and automated intelligence? How do we ensure true organizational fluency and collaboration? That seems like the necessary strategic focus after the tech is in place. Something for you to really chew on as you think about not just implementing agents, but truly transforming your organization's future.